Shock Monkey Radio is created by adults for entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed here do not reflect the sponsors or FXPG Public Radio. For additional information, refer to the U.S. Bill of Rights. Stand warned. We're going to talk about The Way of the Gun, 2000 movie. I quote this movie a lot, and EK said, you know what, you should review that movie because it's always on your mind because you quote it a lot. So here's a brief overview. It's like these two guys are very interesting criminals. And so they overhear some information at this fertility clinic or whatever, this cryo freezing thing that they're at in this picture here. And they decide to kidnap somebody who's got like a lot of deep pockets. And it's this kidnapping movie where these two guys, Benicio del Toro and Ryan Philippe, try to kidnap pregnant Juliette Lewis, who's being a surrogate for these rich people. And so, that's the story, basically. Anyway, they introduce you to these two characters right off the bat with a very interesting scene. Great hook in this movie. The first act has great hooks. There's several. It's a barbed triple hook. You know what I'm saying in this movie? Because you get the first scene where they're outside a bar and this car alarm goes off, and Ryan Philippe and Benicio del Toro are hanging about this car. This guy hits his car alarm and says, "Hey, get off my car." And then Sarah Silverman is next to him, turns around and starts yelling and the filthiest stuff. She's got a filthy mouth. It's Sarah Silverman, right. And I still think she's cute and still bangable, so I just want to put that out there, Sarah. But, yeah, you got a shot. But she's just going off, and they're surprised. You know, they're surprised at the way this woman's mouth is going off. But her boyfriend gets involved, and they start coming up to the car because they're not leaving, right? They're messing with it more because there's all this commotion being caused. And she comes up with her boyfriend, and a crowd forms around them, and she's just going off. And the boyfriend is beta, but he's trying to step into alpha shoes, and so he has to eventually get to the point. Okay, baby, let me talk to them. And after all he said, he's like, "Look, I'm gonna whoop you silly, and then I'm gonna fuck you. I'm not even gay. I mean, I know she said it, but I'm gonna fuck you because." That's what she said, and I got to do that because I'm that beta, you know. And so when the fight starts, they leap past him, they push him out of the way to reach over and hit her in the face because she was the one instigating it, pushing it to that level. She was the one causing everything. They took an ass whooping after that. All the guys all crammed and beat the crap out of them, but they're willing to take it because they knew where to put the damage. These guys were not stupid, and it kind of shows you. All right, and then you get the narrator thing, which I think was kind of unnecessary. I had Ryan Philippe doing the narration. It was kind of unnecessary. And they start talking about these schemes to make money, like go and give them blood and you can get some money, or you can go to a fertility clinic and, donate a sample. All right, I'm going to start. Well, I guess I've already been graphic and I dropped a couple F-bombs. All right, well, I gave you the one in the beginning. And so they say, I'm going to go there and get $200 or something like that for a shot, something I'm going to do anyway. And so they go through the screening processes, and there's a really brilliant scene where they kind of skip between Benicio's interview and Ryan Philippe's interview, where they're being questioned about donating their genetic material to this company. And Benicio del Toro's conversation is something and they're they ask him, "Why do you think you'd be a good donor?" And he's like, "Well, I've never killed anyone." It's like, "Well, we don't really ask if anyone's killed anyone." And it's like, "You should." And then it cuts to Ryan Philippe and what he's saying. But when it comes back to Benicio del Toro, it has the guy's question. It's like, "Well, no one ever mentions if you've had sex with dead people. We don't ask that." And Benicio del Toro's like, "You should." And then Ryan Philippe's conversation is interesting because he's asking these questions, and he asks Ryan Philippe, he goes, "Heterosexual?" And Ryan Philippe kind of stops. And he says, "Let me ask you a question. Are you a faggot?" See, you asked me a question. I asked you the same question, only I was clear about the answer I was looking for. Are you a faggot? Why can't you say it? It's not what you say. It's how you say it. It's interesting. It shows the nature of these characters, And it's possible they're both gay. It's irrelevant to the plot because, it's a gun. But while it's the way of the gun, it doesn't matter when guns come out. Samuel Colt made them equal, you know what I mean? So they go to this fertility clinic, and as they're in the waiting room, they overhear this conversation by the receptionist they decide to start this. They hear about this rich people with the pregnant surrogate, and they decide to kidnap her. They get themselves some gear, and the kidnapping scene, it shows that they were disciplined and like methodical about how they're going to take, because she had 2 bodyguards on them, trained men who probably like ex-military and so forth. There's Taye Diggs and some other guy, you know, and they confront them. They try to kidnap her, but they kind of, I forget what they did. They pointed the guns at the baby. And so, like in her belly, it's like, we're not going to give you this, you know, easily. So they decide to back off, and then the other team like engages them, shoots at them in the parking lot. Chaos ensues, and they end up snatching Juliette Lewis and try to hold her for ransom. All right. And my absolute favorite part of this movie is at some point a bagman's got to contact them about getting them money, and it's James Caan. And you find out later that James Caan is Juliette Lewis's father in the movie. All right. And so James Caan contacts him and wants to give him an offer. To see, there's a lot of other stuff happening in this movie. All right. I've covered the basics and the stuff that I really like. All right. But he and Benicio del Toro have a conversation. They're talking about the money, and like, you know, they're both, you know, on kind of have like conversations about crime, and they're having this conversation with Benicio del Toro. He's saying, you know, I've met those guys, you know, they go to prison, you know, they're like, they think they're all bad, and they get out and they're like, oh, you know, I'm tough, I've been to prison, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like they're more interested in that. They're more interested in proving that, or saying that they're a criminal, than they are in committing crime. And James Caan says to him, well, that's not just crime, you know, that's the way of the world. And that's my favorite part of the movie, because that's the conversation that every creator, I think, no matter what you do, really, you got to ask yourself, it's like, do I want to be a YouTuber, or do I want to create videos on YouTube? And I think that's the difference between like a good creator and a bad creator. It's like some people, you know, I don't want to be I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be famous. Well, why don't you be good at something? And if fame comes along, great. But it's a shallow thing to want. And that's the point. It's like, do you want to be a criminal for the look, or do you want to commit crime for the profit? That's the point Benicio del Toro was trying to make. And the point James Caan was trying to make is the one I just made. If you're going to do something, you gotta like love and want to do what you do. And I think that's a really good point in the film. And there's so many interesting characters. There's the surrogate is for this rich guy whose like trophy wife doesn't want to have a kid, but she's banging the bodyguard Taye Diggs, because, you know, if a woman's in the same house with Taye Diggs, you know, they're going to end up banging, right? That's the rules, right? And so there's like a double cross going on where the bodyguards are trying to steal the ransom money and so forth. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with plenty of violence. You know, you can't have a movie called The Way of the Gun and not have a lot of violence, only a little bit of violence. There's a guy who plays Abner. He's kind of an interesting character. I like him. He's just this old drunk guy. He's drunk, and he's loading one bullet into. He's got 6 .38 revolvers on the table, and he loads one round into each of them. He's drinking whiskey, country music playing, puts all them into a pillowcase, twists it around, reaches in, pulls one pistol out, puts it up to his head. That's when his phone rings, and that's what James Caan's calling, needing his help. He called, hey, Abner. He's like, yeah, you drunk? A little. It's great. Am I red because I'm laughing so hard? I look red. Anyway. Yeah. Glorious violence. Yeah, the end is good. There's an interesting plot with the pregnant surrogate. The film is mostly for men, but there are definitely elements in it that a woman could sink their teeth into. You could probably talk a girlfriend into watching this with you, girlfriend or wife. 10 of 13 stars. It has Ryan Phillippe in it. And the only movie I ever liked with him in it was MacGruber, because he played a pretty good straight guy in that movie. Plus, there's the whole I'm pregnant ending. You didn't have to do that. I mean, and what are you going to do? A Way of the Gun 2, and she's having Taye Diggs' baby, and I call that lazy writing. So 10 of 13 stars. Ooh, fancy. We're really sprucing up the mailroom here.